We can't think of a single reservation in the state that doesn't have some sort of story.
Montana is huge and has a huge Native population. I think it's easier for people to get away with it. I could go missing. I could be murdered, because it doesn't matter, especially for Indigenous women, like your age. It doesn't matter like where you are in life, like it just happened.
I want to believe that Ashley is still alive.
This has been a part of your life every day for the last 14 months.
Yes, this is my life now, it seems like. Whenever we have a chance, we go search. And sometimes it's just me going search, just by myself.
Imagine going missing here. You're looking at just one small part of Blackfeet Reservation, which sits on 1.5 million acres of land. That's larger than the size of Delaware. Kimberly's sister Ashley went missing here last June. She disappeared without a trace, last seen at the foot of Divide Mountain on the border of National Glacier Park. How many times have you and your family searched this place?
Searched this about 30, 40 times. This area is huge. I'm doing it because of my love for my sister. I'm getting all emotional because I miss my sister so much.
Nearly half of the missing person cases in Montana are Native women, even though Native people make up just 6% of the population. The numbers scream crisis and begs the question, why is this happening and what's being done about it? The answer, we learned, is a tangled mess.
I've heard that a few instances, like if you're gonna commit a crime, you should do it on a reservation, especially if you're non-Native, because there's really no way for you to pay any consequences.
Why are Native women disappearing without a trace?
Maybe because we're an easy target, because we live in such rural places on reservations, and the lack of law enforcement there, and because we do live in poverty here. It makes you angry. Why us? Why are we not important to people? Why isn't our girls on these national news stations?
Last year, the Senate passed a resolution designating May 5 a National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women in honor of Hannah Harris, a Native woman killed on a reservation in Montana. Montana's lawmakers are also trying to pass bills that would help fund and expedite investigations into missing person cases involving Native women. Ivan and Ivy McDonald are local Native filmmakers who have been documenting this crisis for more than a year and a half. They believe that's not enough.
There's small fixes here and there, but there really is no big structural change, which is needed. I feel that if legislators aren't willing to fill these cracks, then they're complicit.
Indigenous people have to find their own justice because no one else is going to give it to us.
Where we're sort of yelling and screaming for the crisis to be heard, but it's kind of only a whisper outside of our communities. This is right off of Highway 2 on the CSKT reservation. We participated in a search for Jermaine Charlo.
So we searched for a good, 3 hours.
Just to get an idea of scale, if you were to put dots on a map of the state of Montana, where all of these stories are, what would that look like?
I think it would just be covered. There's stories of women who have been found on this highway, just from Missoula to here. Anywhere with Indigenous women, I think it happens.
This is what that would look like. Instead of a dot out of respect, we're using the first letter of the name of every single Native woman in Montana who went missing just from January to September 2018. This data was painstakingly collected by Anita Lucchese, a Cheyenne woman scholar and cartographer putting together a database of MMIW, or Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. By her count, the number of Native women missing in Montana just this year is at 32. Scan the Montana Department of Justice for a similar list, and some of the women are literally faceless.
for the most part, were seen as invisible by the nation. A lot of times when it comes to murdered and missing Native women, we don't know the circumstances.
It's just easy to fall off the radar around here.
Yes.
Lucy Simpson has been doing advocacy work for Native issues for decades. She says Native women fall through one crack after another in a deeply broken system. First, the violence is almost inevitable. 4 out of 5 Native women will experience it, and worse, they are murdered at 10 times the national average. Then, when the violence happens, there are no resources to deal with it. Federal grant dollars barely make it to Indigenous groups and community programs. And even worse, many murder and missing Native women cases get tossed around like a hot potato because of jurisdiction issues.
So technically, if just inside this little boundary, if someone was to commit a crime, a non-Native on the reservation, there wouldn't be any ability for the tribe to prosecute or sort of investigate, depending on the kind of like the level of the crime. On the reservation border, there's always this idea of, well, who do we call? Do we call state? Do we call county? Do we call tribal? Do we call federal? There's really this kind of jurisdictional maze where you don't know who to turn to.
Is it hard to drive around the town where your sister should be here?
Yes, it is. I'm always so used to coming back to Browning and Ashley being here.
Are you prepared for your sister's case to go unresolved?
I'm prepared to keep pushing. And one day we'll find Ashley. We'll get our answers. Even if I have to look for 80 years, I'll look my whole life if I have to. My sister is important.